The Green Brigade are back, and with a bit of luck, Celtic will be back too, following 2 defeats league-wise on the bounce. This is Tino with the countdown to kick-off ahead of Celtic v Livingston on Saturday at 3 o'clock. Joined here by James and Paddy. Paddy, I'll come to you first. What's your initial thoughts ahead of this one?
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful that we start to see a bit of atmosphere kind of return to the stadium. I think it's been quite a difficult time for the fans, quite a difficult time for the playing team as well. And it doesn't really help when we don't have that full house. So it's good. We want everyone to be able to come and watch Celtic. So I think it's good for us going forward. Maybe just a little boost we need in terms of getting the atmosphere back up there, supporting the team, and really just pushing them on for the last few games of this year and obviously before the winter break.
Yeah, James, it's maybe a boost that the players could do at this moment in time. I don't know if you listened to Liam Scales just yet, talking about the week that's been. Says it's been a pretty tough week. They've faced a bit of backlash from fans following those 2 defeats. Brendan Rodgers fairly outspoken about the lack of quality, the fact that he wasn't too surprised by the defeat at Hearts. So it may well just be a timely boost when the players need it most.
I mean, it's undeniable that, adds to the atmosphere, and that feeds into the players. I think it's great that all parties have just decided to behave like adults and have adult conversations and agree, on a good way forward that works for everyone. So yeah, I'm happy with that, and if it can add to the performance on the field, even better.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of chat about getting to January, adding those 2 as the suggested signings. We'll most definitely get maybe 4, who knows. James, do you think the squad's good enough to get 3 wins on the bounce between now and then?
100%. So there's 4. There's St Mirren in the new year as well before the break, and I think we have to go and target that first 3-4 wins in a row of the season, and it's more than good enough. These are the players that were running European teams really, really close, and that's not good enough. But is the standard that they achieved there is enough to take care of most and all of Scottish football. So it's attitudinal rather than ability. And I think Brendan will have spent a lot of time this week working on attitude. And there'll be work for him to do in terms of reassuring people that they've still got a chance to prove themselves at Celtic. I think a lot of people, a lot of players have just been thinking, well, that's me, I need to be talked to my agent, I'm for the door. And a lot of them are for the door, but everyone's got a chance until it's too late.
Yeah, Paddy, it's one thing having the ability to beat the likes of Hearts and Kelly, and we know that on paper Celtic's players, by and large, are better than those players. That's just the facts of it. They're more talented guys. But confidence is so big in football, isn't it? And it's clear at this moment in time, there's no getting away from it, that Celtic players are out of confidence, they're out of sorts. So how do you think the players are feeling about themselves right now, and how do they pick themselves up for as James says, the first of 3-4 big games ahead?
I think it's a difficult one for all the team, to be honest. We look around those that have got that experience, that winning mentality that's instilled in the squad, and we hope that they're the ones that can start to kind of guide things through. You're looking for big players. You're looking for big people in the dressing room that's going to speak up and just push those that are struggling through this. I look at my leaders like Callum McGregor, Joe Hart, James Forrest has that impact in the dressing room as well. I think like everyone has been there; they've been at the highest level, and it's now time. As much as we've been one of our best players this season, but it's now time for Matt O'Reilly to bring that to the table as well. I think he knows what it takes to win. There are those that are lacking doubt. I think that we're starting to see the doubt creep into the likes of Alistair Johnston. I would even bring Greg Taylor into that as well. I think he's realising his performances aren't good enough just now. So I think that it needs everyone to help each other here. We're not playing great football, we know that, but it does ultimately come down to the confidence side of things as well. And I'm just hopeful that the rest that they've had since Saturday has been enough time in the training field just to kind of come together again and really just kick on and push on here. The one thing I hope for Tino is more of a settled starting 11 for the next 4 games. I think that would help us greatly.
Yeah, it'd make a huge difference. Paddy, you've mentioned the big players, they need to step up in the big occasions, and you've also mentioned Matt O'Reilly. We can't not discuss the speculation you'll have seen. So breaking news this afternoon is that apparently Inter Milan want him. They want him in January with a view to make it a permanent sign in summer. I can make my peace with Matt O'Reilly leaving in summer if that's what it comes to, and that's kind of how it goes just now. You come to Celtic, you impress, you kick on, and you get the big move, and everybody wins. But it would be a horrendous move by Celtic to let Matt O'Reilly go at this stage, given what's on offer ultimately in terms of Champions League football next season, the finances that are involved in that. It would just be criminal to let him go in any way, shape, or form. And they've let us down in the past, but surely they won't let us down by letting O'Reilly go early.
I don't think they will. I think we've got to kind of be sensible when it comes to these kind of decisions. The way we're feeling at the moment, with how the performances have been lately, we're still in control of this title, and I think to go and let someone like Matt O'Reilly go would be catastrophic for the board. I don't think they will let him go. Definitely agree with you. In the summer, I can see him moving on. But yeah, unless they were to have 3 or 4 ready replacements to come in January, I don't see him leaving.
Yeah, James, he's been really important, hasn't he, for the season so far? Goals and assists. He's added a lot more goals to his game this season. He's the one guy people are debating who's Brendan Rodgers actually improved. Now, I do say a lot of this is down to the individual himself, but he is the one guy who's really kicked on his levels, and he was already at a pretty decent level, so he's been huge so far for Celtic, but there's no doubt he'll go on to be equally important in the second half of the season, and you've got to keep a guy like that around for the title running.
Yeah, he's a hard worker and a willing learner. That's one of the biggest things, is to be coachable, and he's learned Rodgers' new style, the new style coming to Celtic under Rodgers, and it does benefit him that Rodgers wants to see goals from around the team and from the midfield, and he's getting himself into positions that were previously occupied by, I suppose, Kyogo to a degree, but Abada as well coming in from the wing. So he's really benefited from it, and so there's absolutely no chance he goes in January. Absolutely not on loan. If they do something mad, 50 million, and that's what I mean by mad, to go in January, then you kind of need to look at it. But the argument flips, because fans can make their peace with it when there's a big number on the table. But when the big number just goes straight into the bank and stays there, what's the point? So I think Inter Milan are just kicking tyres here at best. If not, it's just agents making a wee bit of noise to see how the land lies, how the market looks for the summer. I think O'Reilly will go in the summer. I think he's that kind of guy who wants to go and keep increasing the challenges that he goes through, and moving to a different team will do that for him. It's not in January.
No, I think you're right. He's a talented guy, isn't he? And he's clearly a guy, every time you hear him speak, he works hard on himself. If it's not the meditation or the yoga, it's the Pilates is the recent chat. James, have you booked yourself in for some January Pilates?
Not just yet. Because January's always busy. I go in February,
A February Pilates guy, just like myself. Paddy, before we get into more of the chat about Livy specifically, I just want to thank everyone who's joined us here on the YouTube Live. Always appreciate you joining us here, and feel free to ask any questions at all throughout the recording, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go along. Paddy, what about Livy? They're in dire straits at the moment, bottom of the table, scraping about, no money for Martindale, all this kind of stuff. We've seen them rock up to Celtic Park often enough now in recent times, and we know how they prep. So is their situation going to make it even harder for Celtic to break them down tomorrow?
I think so. I think I was reading some really good comments to some of the stuff we'd put out on Twitter. One of the ones being the video I was saying, I think it would be crazy talk to let our manager go at this point. Someone made a very good point about Celtic breaking down the low block. And that is definitely something that we have struggled with this season. And it tends to be the teams that step out against us, we pick away at, Aberdeen being an example. I think for me, it's a difficult one. Martindale will be seeing just that kind of shakiness at Celtic, and that's a lot of confidence for that Livingston side. Like, hang on, this is not just a dead rubber for them in terms of like they're not expecting to get anything. He'll get them G'd up, they really will, and I think that a point is definitely something that they will be looking to try and achieve at Celtic Park. We need to be quick off the mark. I think the tempo in the first 10, 15 minutes, that's something that I've just not seen from us all season. I think we kick off and try and go and get an early goal and really just put the game plan out the window for the opposition, especially those that like to sit in against us. So I'd like to see that from us tomorrow.
Yeah. James, we've spoken often about the whole thing under Ange, it was score early and score late. Celtic so often scored in the first 15 and in the last 15. And it's something that in recent games, the longer the game goes on, that Celtic don't score, the tension ramps up across the board, certainly amongst the players, but amongst the fans. And I suppose in itself, that makes it even harder to score when there's that anxiety doing the rounds and players are picking the wrong passes. So Brendan Rodgers has said it, but he's not quite gone through with it. How important do you feel it is to get off to this fast start tomorrow?
It's crucial. It really is. For a number of reasons, it adds energy to the fans, which the fans give back. It changes to a degree Martindale's game plan because he can't, just sit. And I know that even 1-0 down, these teams tend to sit in until 80 minutes and try and sneak one in the last 10, 15. But 1 and 2 goals definitely changes that. For me, I think it's personnel that's going to drive this. When I saw the Hearts team, the team against Hearts last Saturday in Turnbull's, and you're starting midfield, Turnbull has a wealth of talents, pace, drive, and dynamism aren't those, So it just slows things up when Turnbull's in there. I think the problem is Hatate's obviously injured. It would be Hatate and Norelli giving you that drive without. So I'm still kind of tossing about who my midfield three is, but getting that right and getting the energy through the players and getting that early goal is so crucial.
Yeah. Do you know what I think Celtic are just seriously lacking across the board? It's pace and power throughout the team. We've got good players. David Turnbull's a good player. He's a good footballer. Louis Palmer's a good footballer. Various other guys, but we lack physicality, Paddy. We lack strong guys, and I know that's not what the game's all about. You don't need to go and steamroller teams and bully teams, but you need to have that physicality to stand up and be strong and take control. And you need the pace to break at times. You need the pace to get in behind. You need the pace to counter if that's the way the game's going. And I think as much as Celtic have got really decent players across the board, we do lack those two main attributes across a lot of the squad.
I know what you mean, but I think that some of the guys that were with us last season, it wasn't all about that power. Like I think back to some of the games against them last season, we were just one step ahead of them. We were reading the game a lot quicker. I think that the pace of the game is definitely something that we need to try and bring back and inject into the team. But I'm not all about, like, I know it's very easy to say for our league we need to get physical and we need to get stuck in, but we've seen under Ange that's not always needed. Now, yeah, maybe some games it calls for it, but I think we've got a clever enough team not to get involved with that and actually just control the game. If we move the ball quick enough, I think the ball does seem to just get knocked about pretty slowly under Rodgers. And I think it's his build-up play. He's always kind of opted for that slow build-up, tire the opposition out. Whereas I would rather catch them off guard. But there's a reason I'm sitting here and he's in the dugout at Celtic Park. So that's what that is.
James, I wasn't meaning go full Wimbledon 92 and just lump it up to John Fashanu and Vinnie Jones smashing guys in the midfield. But do you think they lack a bit of physicality? But to Paddy's point, we didn't have it last year and we seem to do all right. Although I do think we miss Starfelt's physicality when defending corners. But generally speaking, do you think that's something we need? Or is that maybe just an excuse for some of the poor performances?
I think opposition teams are getting belief when we're playing slow, patient, dare I say, fairly turgid football. And with that, they then start to press you. So I think, Paddy, you called it before the Hearts game that they would just launch it in the direction of Greg Taylor, watch kick-off, watch specifically for that, and that's what they did. And then when Taylor gets himself in a bit of bother, he can't handle that physical challenge. So when teams get belief against us, they start to target those who aren't as physically able, just in terms of their stature. So I think we don't need it if your pace side is working and you're scoring goals fast and early, because then the opposition team doesn't have as much belief. But if you're not scoring early, the opposition's starting to probe a wee bit. They might think, well, it's me against you, just two guys, one against the other. I'm bigger than you, or I'm stronger than you. And they start to get results on that. So I think we need it at the moment. But I take Paddy's point, it's not always necessary in a winning team. But if you don't have the pace, you definitely need the power.
Yeah. Paddy, I'll give you Dyson Maeda and maybe James Forrest. Name me three more pacey players at Celtic Park.
What I mean by pace, Tino, is not specifically getting past and running past a player. I'm talking more about being quick off the mark with releasing the ball, and those being quick off the mark with even the overlap. I've spoke about the frustration you see from Louis Palmer when the pass is there, but Taylor's not anywhere near that overlap position, and then when he gets into it, it's too late. It's blocked off. It's been about being a bit more quicker, a bit more wiser in our play. You even see it to the points, even when we try and bring the ball out for the box. I've seen a couple of times where we've been under pressure, and you see the likes of McGregor, O'Reilly, they're looking for that out ball. And those that have come in, the likes of Turnbull, even Yang when he's played, and even Iwata, one of the games as well, they don't like taking the ball in really, really dangerous positions and trying to move it on. So I just think it's that little bit more courage that we need, a little bit more confidence in trying to come out from the back, like we're very, very comfortable at doing last season. People, I just think, need to step up a little bit and just wake up a little bit.
Yeah, I think just across the board, you're right. You know, I was being slightly facetious about the pacey players, although we definitely do like them. But there's a lot to be said for moving the ball quicker. Can you do it in 1 and 2 touches instead of 3 and 4 and 5, particularly when it's your centre halves bringing it out? I actually thought, credit to Stephen Welsh, who stepped in for that Lazio game, Feyenoord game, sorry. And one thing he was doing was moving it quicker than he generally used to do so. But it's not enough if only 1 or 2 guys are doing it, because if ultimately a few guys do it and then it slows down when it gets to the winger, or slows down when it gets to your number 10 or whatever, then it all breaks down, and it needs to be something that's applied across the board. And I'd be amazed, James, if they're not up at Lennoxtown doing the short, sharp, quick passing, 1 and 2 touch, everything really high tempo. But it seems to be that when they go into the games, they're not quite executing that. And I think my guess would be that that's where the confidence thing comes in. When you're confident and feeling good about yourself and on form, you do everything that wee bit quicker. And when you're unsure about yourself and you're suffering a couple of defeats, you maybe take those extra touches.
It's confidence, and I'd say maybe to a greater degree responsibility. Players that are prepared to stand up and be counted and take chances and take responsibility, take games with the scruff of the neck. How many times this season have we seen a pass potentially on, and we've went, no, I'll give it back to Alistair Johnson, to give to CCV, to give to Scales. That's been our biggest problem all season. Just guys not taking chances, not taking responsibility, and not driving at teams. And then when you're not doing that, the team works out the pattern and how to repress you. See, if I press you hard, then you're just going to funnel it back. You're going to horseshoe across the other side. Then my right back will do the same, and it'll just keep going and going. And then you'll get a bit frustrated and you'll try something you shouldn't try. We'll pick up the ball and we'll hoof it. You'll take possession and we start again. So I think players need to take responsibility. They need to find self-confidence. These are well-paid, talented footballers. They've got these jerseys for a reason, and they need to show us why they've got these jerseys.
Yeah, 100%. I'll bring in a comment here from Strangelove the Doctor. I don't think that's his real name, James, but you never know. But it's a good point he makes. He says it's not just about the crisp 2 touch, it's about making the hard runs to be available for the man on the ball. And that is absolutely spot on. It's one thing the man in possession doing his thing, but if he's not getting the runners ahead, and that ties into Paddy's point about Louis Palmer and Greg Taylor. If Greg Taylor's not making the run for Louis Palmer, there's little he can do for it. It doesn't give him that option down the outside. So in many ways, the most important guys are the guys off the ball and being those options for the Palmers, the McGregors, the Mikey Johnsons.
Let's not go nuts.
Easy, lads, easy. Let's look at the team selection, though. So I think there's little doubt it'll be Joe Hart in goals. That he gets sent off against Livy last time. That was one of the headlines. That was the first red card they'd taken in his full career. 36 years of age, red card. And it was a red card. They nearly took the guy's head off. But he'll be back in goals for tomorrow. So what about the back four, James? Again, I'd be surprised if it's anything but Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor. But do you see anything otherwise?
No. It's actually a really boring team I've picked out. I don't think Rodgers is going to do anything crazy tomorrow. So you're back four: Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales and Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah. Comment from San Fran, big fan of the show and big supporter, and thanks to him. San Fran Celtic suggested Mitchell Frame. I'd love to see Mitchell Frame at some point. I don't know if throwing him in from the start when the club's under a lot of pressure is the way to go. But Paddy, would you like to see Mitchell Frame in at left back or any other changes across the back four?
Yeah, I think why not? I think a player like that will get a pass tomorrow if the performance is poor and the fans start to kind of come on the team's back, which understandably so at the moment. I think we all kind of seen what Frame brought in his debut against Feyenoord and thought, why not give this guy a chance? So I don't see any issue in that, in my opinion. I think we need to expose players, especially when the team is under a bit of pressure. this is bottom of the league, and it's a team we should be beating. So what a way to build confidence as well. So I just don't see the confidence with Greg Taylor at the moment. I think he looks out his depth, especially against Hearts. He was non-existent for me. So yeah, I would be looking at someone like Frame to come in and see what he's all about. Why not?
Yeah, I'd like to see him involved. And someone's mentioned that he should at least be on the bench ahead of Bernaby, and I've got to agree with that. Bernaby's just, I think he'll be one of the first out the door in January, to be honest with you. So if Frame can at least be in and around the first team squad, get that experience, get that confidence, and potentially step in. We've said it before in the way that KT stepped in when Izagiri started to struggle. Maybe Frame steps in and head of Taylor, and we see how that goes. Into the midfield, Paddy, it's been the midfield tombola, the lucky dip, the Brendan Rodgers lottery, call it what you like, but it's always Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly, and another. I think the press conference, Brendan Rodgers' press conference, has gone live while we've been on recording here, and I'd be really hopeful for a positive update on Iwata. If Iwata's fit, for me, he starts. I think he was showing up that he was going to do a decent job in there in the six and allow Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly to operate ahead of him. What do you think, Paddy, though? I don't know if he's fit or not, and if not, what do you think the options will be?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think we want him to keep getting more game time. It's still very early days for Iwata. I think we've seen some good things from him. But I think it was one of the boys pointed out to me that even against Kilmarnock, he wasn't covering as much ground the same way that McGregor does, and just not finding himself in those positions to take the ball and bring it out from the back, as I mentioned earlier. So I think that comes with more games, more game time, and I definitely see a player in him. I think he's came on so many times for us this season and seen the game out very comfortably. So I do see him getting a chance. Why not?
Yeah. What about yourself, James? What do you think the midfield's going to look like?
I don't think Turnbull starts another game for Celtic. I think that ship has sailed. He's in the Mikey Johnson, Nat Phillips bus. He could be on the bench to come on last 30, but I don't think he starts because we start too slow when he starts. And I want to be clear on the record, whatever Turnbull goes on to do, I wish him very well. I think he's a talented boy. I just don't think he suits the way we play football. So I don't think Turnbull's in there. O'Reilly will be and Calmack will be. Iwata wasn't mentioned in the press conference, just checking there. So that kind of makes your decision for you. It's going to be Calmack, Matt O'Reilly and Bernardo.
Bernardo seems to be the guy that Brendan Rodgers trusts for the Champions League, but not for the likes of Livy and others. He seems to be very much doing a kind of horses for courses thing. Do you think that'll affect his thinking? Or
I mean, there's weird things going on in that regard, and they're both lone players, Nat Phillips and Bernardo, in terms of why they're on the bench or why they're on the pitch ahead of others and then they're not at other times. Something doesn't quite add up there, is all I would say. If Bernardo can play and play well in Europe, then he can play and play well against Livy. So that's my selection.
Yeah. Are you on with that, Paddy? You think Bernardo should get the nod then?
If Iwata's not fit, I know obviously there's been no mention of him, but I think, I haven't seen an awful lot from him. Again, it kind of reminds me of just the same sort of pace as Turnbull as well, and I just don't think that's what we're crying out for. I'd love Son just to come out the woodwork and we see Hatate come in, but wishful thinking.
Yeah, he's back on the training ground, isn't he? I'm just not sure where he's at in terms of his full recovery. The David Turnbull situation, and again, there's mention of it in the comments, and rightly so. He's about 10 days out from being able to sign a pre-contract with somebody. And his priority, this is just human nature, his priority is to not get injured at this moment in time. He's entering the last 6 months of his Celtic deal, and that's a precarious position footballers can find themselves in at times. So, if he gets an odd, James, does he go full-blooded against Livy? Does he smash into 50-50s? Does he take risks, knowing that if he gets injured, he could be left high and dry, going into the next few months?
Yeah, I think Rodgers has to know that. I mean, I would say there's been a degree of that in Turnbull since he signed, and so there would be after coming through such a debilitating injury and coming through it, with great credit. I recommend to anyone the documentary with Turnbull coming through his injuries. It was really inspiring. But I think on the back of that, naturally, Izagiri was the same to come back from the leg break. Players are just naturally a wee bit more hesitant, and then as you get to the point of there might be a new contract on the table at a different destination, then of course. So I think for that reason alone, Rodgers has to be careful in terms of how much energy that takes out of the team. If we're not committing to 50-50s, Livy will get a chance. So that's how they're going to play it. They play the physical games. So you've got to have players that are prepared to kind of put themselves about. And that's a frustration for Turnbull that just the situation as it is.
Yeah. Let's get to the front three. I'll give you mine, and you can comment otherwise. Paddy, I think it has to be Kyogo through the middle, Dies and Maeda on the right, and Louis Palma on the left. What do you think of that? No Mikey Johnson.
I'm always a believer of if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you're fit enough to start. But I still don't know about Maeda. I think it was a bit of a you're nearing it, but let's get you in. And to be honest, he still didn't look anywhere near the normal pace that he can get to. So I don't know if he starts tomorrow. I think I'm still a little bit unsure if he's even ready to be back in the squad. For me, I'd love to see him start if he was feeling up for it and fit enough, but it can't be Mikey Johnson. It just can't be, because that was shocking.
I thought you said for me, Mikey Johnson.
No, just get your internet sorted, James. No, no, it can't be. So I don't know for right wing, and Palma for me at the left, and hopefully there is something. If we do see Mitchell Frame start, hopefully there is something in the partnership between the two of them. But Kyogo in the middle.
So who's your right wing?
Paddy, I missed your right winger. Yeah,
don't have one.
Don't have one.
I'd rather go with 10 men.
10 men Celtic set to face Livy. James, you can go for 2 front men if you want. I'll give you the option of 3. Who would your front 3 be?
No, I'm the same as you. Dies in. I think he came on much earlier than he expected to at the weekend there, because Mikey turned in what he turned in. I think he was expecting to get a bit of a game time in the legs, 15-20 minutes, and ends up coming on and not just having to play 45, but to play 45 from a fairly desperate position. It's not the kind of game you want to bring on guys coming back from injury. So I'll give him a pass. As much as it was a shocking performance, I'll give him a pass on that. He starts for me tomorrow. Palma on the left. I've got a lot of question marks over Palma, overall, just in terms of has he got it? But we're only going to find out if he keeps playing. So he's starting for me, and there's no one else to take his place anyway. And Kyogo goes through the middle. O's had his chance. He's not taking it. There's too much of that this season. Guys getting their chances. See in big clubs, getting your chances is hard. And see when you get it and you don't take it, I think it's really, really hard to get back to getting another chance, and it might only be going one way.
Apart from that miss at Rugby Park, where he slid in and missed it, I think for O, though, and I say this for Kyogo, the service they've received in the last 3 games has been shocking. It's non-existent. I know what you mean. I get where you're coming from. We need someone to take the game with the scruff of the neck, even leading the line. But I think that if we get Abada back, if we get Maeda back, and we start to find a bit more like healthy rotation for the wingers, and a bit more as breaking teams down, I start to think that we then see the best of Kyogo, the best of O as well. I just think at the moment it's that transition between our back line to the midfield that is just breaking us down all the time. And that's the big worry for me. So I give the 2 strikers a pass, to be honest, James. I do.
Very generous.
I think it's a bit of both. I think there's no doubt Kyogo's off form. O's been in sketchy form. But the service has been deplorable. There's been very little. Save for a couple of brilliant balls by Mikey Johnson, Paddy, there's not been much at all that's come across the box. James, I also don't get the what I see is quite a sudden negativity by a lot towards Louis Palma. I think Louis Palma's been one of Celtic's brighter lights this season. He's gone quiet in a couple of games, but kind of who hasn't? And as Paddy says, I think he suffers from a lack of support around him, whether it's behind him at mid. Greg Taylor at left back or whoever's inside in the midfield. I think he's a really talented player. I think he's going to kick on and become one of Celtic's best players. He's not Jota. He's not Jota level, but I think he's talented, and I think he brings a lot to the party. And I'm just a wee bit surprised. I wonder if he's just been caught in the crossfire as everyone's just got the scattergun out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think he's got to stand up and be counted if he does want to be a top talent and progress his game with us and progress his career elsewhere. I'm not seeing any stand-up be counted behaviour from him. I'm seeing it's not working, so I'll just shrug the shoulders a wee bit and kind of half chuck it, 50, 60 minutes into a game because it's not working out. He gets a wee bit frustrated. That's when somebody like Jota goes and does the exceptional. And I know players, need to stand on their own merits, and that's fine. But the reason Jota was, being touted and being bought for mad money, we'll take the craziness of the Saudi stuff out of it, but he was sought after elsewhere, is because he took responsibility and he stood up and was counted. Just that's one thing I'm not really seeing from Palmer. He's frustrating me, and I know he's got talent. I don't know if he's a winger. Maybe he is a natural 10. We saw him against Ross County, where we're well up, and he ended up just kind of floating into a 10, by his own design kind of thing, which was, that stage of game absolutely fine. And he thrived in it. Scored a cracking goal. I think he had the bar as well. And then is it just square peg round hole stuff? He has got talent, but he's not a winger. He's a 10, and we don't really play with a 10. He's not going to sit in a kind of one of the 8 positions. So do we just not have the structure to accommodate a Palmer? I'm open-minded to finding out, but I don't think we're going to find out tomorrow or anytime soon in terms of change information.
Yeah, and this might buy into the fact that there's a lot of suggestions that the players that were signed in the summer, the 9 guys, they were more signed with an Ange system in mind, and that a lot of the deals were so far down the line, and maybe Palmer was one of them. I'll stick up for him though. I think he's a real talent. I don't think he's chucked at any time. I think he's been off form at times, and his quality's been lacking. But I think he's a talent. I think he'll come good, and I think people will get more and more excited about him as his Celtic career kicks on. Just a quick one before we move on to a wee bit of chat about Livy. James, do you feel that whether it's Maeda last week or Carter Vickers in recent times, Celtic are rushing players back due to the poor form? Are we bringing guys back before they're ready?
Yeah, I think it's undeniable. Guys, Maeda's staring you straight in the face. That's the case. Carter Vickers maybe as well against Lazio. But the problem is, I don't think we've got the options not to. It would be a luxury to keep them in Cottonville. I think just where we're at in terms of the players that have been signed and the poor performance of players who are already in the building. If someone tells you, and players will always tell you they're ready, that's just players' nature. We're taking that as read and we're putting them on, and we're suffering from it. But I'm probably going to lean with it as well and say I'd rather see that from a better player than someone who's not able. So it's a bit of a catch-22, but I'd go with the guy who wants to be back on the pitch rather than the guy who just is off form or low in confidence.
Yeah, fair enough. Just to summarise the team then, generally speaking, there's a few debates, but Joe Hart in goals, back 4 of Johnson, Taylor, Carter Vickers and Scales, and maybe for Mitchell Frame. I don't think any of us are against it, but in all likelihood, it'd more likely be the bench for him. Midfield 3, McGregor, O'Reilly, maybe Bernardo, but we'd love to see Iwata if fit. And up top, Paddy's gone with Kyogo and Palmer and nobody else. James has given us the luxury of that right winger, which we think will be Dies and Maeda. Do you think Maeda, James?
Yeah,
100%. No James Forrest?
Just going back to my, pace, dynamism and all that kind of dynamism and all that kind of stuff. I think James can come on and do a job in the last 15 minutes against Livy. I just don't think he should be starting. Again, it's down to who else if not Maeda. It's not Mikey. I don't think it's Jamesy, so it's Maeda by default.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's have a quick look at Livy. Paddy, they've lost 8 and drawn 1 of their last 9. If Celtic don't win tomorrow, should Brendan Rodgers be fired? I'm not laughing.
I am. I would. I think it would be a really, really poor performance, but we'd still not be out of the league. So I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, they've got to be low in confidence, so haven't they? We know ourselves, we've had a couple of bumps in the road, but Livy, their form's very close to Motherwell. They get the odd draw here and there, but generally speaking, they're losing games of football almost every time they take to the park. And I know for some players it'll be a lift to come to Celtic Park, but actually it's a fixture they could probably do without. They've got a couple of more meaningful fixtures in the next couple of games. They've got St Johnstone on the 27th and then Motherwell on the 30th. And actually, if you're being smart about it as a manager, they've got to be a priority, haven't they?
Absolutely. And I think even Martindale knows that. I read some of his conference and he was talking about, like it's a positive for the league that Celtic are stuttering. Obviously, he would say that. Funny that, but it's. I'm not surprised that he's still thinking it's probably still a bad thing for us because they want to put things right. I think we do tomorrow. I don't think they are anywhere near the levels they've been over the last 6 or 7 seasons in this league. And I think that everything outside the club, off the field, outside the playing field is starting to really catch up on them. They've done really well keeping their heads above water and punching above their weight a lot of the time as well. But I think it's a really difficult one for such a small club. And now you're starting to see things unravel. And I think because of this ownership battle off the park, it's really affecting them just now. So yeah, I hope we go and just wipe the floor with them, to be honest.
Yeah, James, I could go on about some of Livy's players. We often take a kind of quick glance to get, your guys like Joel Newbley, who I like, Jason Holt, Andrew Shinnie, Scott Pittman, experienced Scottish Premiership players. But really, is tomorrow more about what version of Celtic turn up and what we do in the day?
100%. If you don't get drawn into the physical battles and let yourself get bullied, if you play your football, I'm very confident ahead of tomorrow. I really think it's too big an opportunity for us to just stamp confidence throughout the team, blow away a lot of the negative comments and the doubters, and just get back to where we need to be. And I think that's unfortunate for Livy. I don't think, like you're saying, they need to have their eyes on almost kind of double headers that are coming up. Their relegation kind of candidates are around them. But Martindale at Parkhead, it's hard to shake. Just might just go out for a bit of blood and thunder, and that's what we need to be careful of, not getting sucked into that game. Play the game our way, not get sucked into the way they want it to be played.
Yeah, Davey will be doing his best to give his pals a Christmas bonus. Paddy, plenty of talking been done there. We've weighed up what the Celtic 11 will look like, the position that Livy are in, the position Celtic are in, and very much with the difference the Green Brigade will make tomorrow. It should make a huge difference to what the atmosphere has been. I think it's a real timely boost, as I touched upon there. I think it will just really lift the players. I'm going to give a defence. I've mentioned Brendan Rodgers, and if he doesn't win tomorrow, he's under serious pressure, and rightly so. But I think he will get the win. But there's a couple of things that have certainly gone against him. I've mentioned the injuries at different times, the huge squad that he's got to juggle with back and forth. But this battle between fan groups and the club that's been rumbling on in recent weeks, that's not Brendan Rodgers' fault. He's inherited that problem. He's come in to a Celtic that are disjointed, and it's one of a number of things that haven't gone for him. Now, I don't know how much the Green Brigade and the boys are fully behind Brendan Rodgers. That's been a wee bit mixed. But ultimately, what we should see moving forward, and I say should, is a more united fan base. Let's see what the new returning version of the Green Brigade looks like and acts like. But I'd like to think we'll all start to pull in the one direction, because there's nothing else for it. The team are in a sticky situation just now, and I'd say it's everybody's job as supporters to try and lift them. And I think it could be a really important boost tomorrow, and it'd be such a morale boosting one if we can get a decent result and kick on from there. Yeah,
I totally agree. I think it's an issue that's been just like bubbling away in the background, and it doesn't help anyone. Obviously, you want a full stadium, and we've actually deprived ourselves of that for quite a while, because we've got people at the top and basically not wanting to sit around the table and have these discussions. Now, I'm not saying that the Green Brigade are innocent in a lot of things that have been brought up for discussion, but you're putting your whole team, your whole fan base to a detriment by pulling people out of the stadium. You want the stadium packed every single week. You want to make sure that we're backing the team as best as we can, and you do notice it. You do notice it at Celtic Park. It's not to say that the fans don't care, the ones that are showing up there at the moment. It's not to say that at all. It's to say that it's just been an orchestration from what's been happening in that corner for the last 10, 15 years. That is just so important to us. It really gets the whole crowd going. We look at the displays that they bring to the stadium. We look at the atmosphere created. One of the best ones being that 3-0 win in February against Rangers. It was incredible. It's a team collective from our support as well. So I think that this could be the boost we need to kick on in this run-in, and hopefully that's everything put to bed and we just back the team here. I think that they do back Brendan Rodgers. I look at the song being sung at the end of the Hearts game in October, a performance where we blew them away. And I just think that we know that we've got the players there. We really do. And hopefully we're ready to go just for this run-in coming in, and we can kind of regroup a bit in January and make sure, hopefully that we get the players in that we need as well. So here's hoping.
Yeah, all good stuff there, Paddy. And just to pin you on a scoreline then, what do you think we're going to see tomorrow?
I think we'll go for it tomorrow. I'm going to go 4-0 Celtic.
I like it. James, I think when we done, was it you and I done pre-Hearts? I was hearing 4-0s and 4-1s, and I didn't hear any 2-0 Hearts. So what you seen this time around?
I'm not sure I buy into Paddy's 4-0. Yeah, I've gone 5-0.
Oh,
so
love it. Love it.
Yeah.
You're going to get us cancelled for this nonsense. You think it's going to be a big day?
Yeah, I really do. And I think it's a day for Kyogo as well. I think he'll get a couple of them. Just get his confidence back up and running. It's key that we get the ball through Matt O'Reilly to feed Kyogo rather than coming down the left channel. And I think a big part of that problem was the Mikey Johnson situation in the last few games. There's not been anything coming through the right. So more from Maeda to keep O'Reilly involved, which can feed Kyogo. Yeah, I think it is. I really think Celtic are teed up for a big win tomorrow. Just looking at all the factors in the round.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors at play, and as I said, don't underestimate the atmosphere. I think it's going to be quite fervent at Celtic Park tomorrow. I think everyone's going to get on board, and I think it's a timely boost. Listen, the players need to respond. You need to see a reaction, don't you? It's one thing to lose to Hearts, to lose to Kelly, and then come out and do your talking. As I say, I listened to Liam Scales talking, doing the media brief and stuff, but you then need to show that reaction on the park. And I think as professionals, these guys will be hurting. Callum McGregor will be hurting. Kyogo will be hurting. That's a guy that thrives on scoring goals. There's loads of guys you could run through. And I think there's no better time. We've got such a big week, 10 days or so coming up. And there's no better time to get a reaction. And I think just with the kind of full Celtic Park, the vibrant Celtic Park, then that's probably what we're going to see tomorrow. I'm not quite as 5-0 as you, James, but I think 2 or 3 goals to the good. I'm going to go 3-1 Celtic. I think we're always likely to lose something at a set piece, a corner. Livy will have the hammer throwers up there doing their thing. So maybe we lose a goal, but I think we get a few in return. And listen, I'd take any version. I'd take your 4-0, Paddy, your 5-0, James, my 3-1. But any sort of win tomorrow is so important for Celtic. Paddy, your final comments as we start to wrap this one up.
I think for me, though, just on your final comment there, Tino, about any kind of result, the boost it would give us if we go and stick a few past them. I talk about that, just that mental side and just that trust in each other's kind of play. I think that would really kick us on. I do see it happening tomorrow, and I do want us just to go and push ahead with it. So here's hoping it's a good start to the Christmas period. Yeah,
fingers crossed, Paddy. James?
Yeah, just, there's so much unnecessary negativity. There's necessary negativity around, sure, stuff that we deserve, but it gets blown out of proportion, and that flips to the other side of the city where any kind of success is blown out of proportion. So we've got 4 games to right the wrongs here, and it starts with tomorrow, and obviously looking forward to the 30th as well.
Yeah, definitely. Just a wee bit of housekeeping. I'm going to be speaking to Anthony Joseph from Sky Sports News just shortly today, looking to get a wee bit of insight into Celtic's transfer dealings in and out, James. Hopefully we get more in than out, but there's obviously that Matt O'Reilly rumour, various other rumours doing the rounds. So we'll get a good chat with Anthony this afternoon. That'll go live on Sunday. We'll be back as always after the game tomorrow night with the Final Whistle show. Thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube live. If you are following on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, please follow and reviews where you can. In the meantime, from myself, James and Paddy, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you very soon.